Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
So I was like maybe almost 21. Yeah, I was about 21 at the time. So I started working. So K Jewelers didn't hire me. Their sister company did, which was Westfield Jewelers.
Okay.
Right. So I was working now in El Cajon Mall.
Okay.
And I lived in Chula Vista in Palomar Street, so South Bay, and I didn't have a car.
Wow.
Right. So again, it was now my commute was longer.
Yeah.
And when I went to the interview, I remember my last interview I did for Westfield Jewelers, I was talking to the manager, and she was she sounded like she had hired me. Right. And before I went there, she was like, hey, let's meet for one last time before we finish everything. And I was like, okay, perfect. So that same day, I put my 2-week notice at the Target, and I put my 2-week notice at the gift shop. And then my mom gave me a ride to my final interview, where I thought I was going to get like, here's the keys to the store and you can start working tomorrow.
Right.
So then I get there. I'm talking to the manager, and then she asked me, is like, what's the one thing that makes you stand out? Because we have 2 other people that we want to hire. And it just hit me like, oh my God, like I don't have the job. Right. So I feel like maybe I passed out, blacked out, and I don't know what I said. Right. And then I hopped in the car. I don't remember what I said, but because I was like, I just basically quit my 2 other jobs.
Wow.
I hop in the car, and my mom sees my face, and she's like, what happened? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I thought I had the job. They didn't give me the job. I'm like, but I already quit. And she's like, it's okay. Like, I'll talk to the manager. I'll see if they can rescind your 2-week notice from the gift shop, and good luck with Target.
Right.
And as we're driving home, it's El Cajon to Chula Vista, so about 30-minute drive. Maybe about 5-10 minutes before we get home, my cell phone rings. I pick up, and it's the manager, and she's like, can you start tomorrow? Woo!
At the jewelry store?
At the jewelry store, yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I can.
So the panic attack's over.
Exactly. The panic attack is over. So that was really good news. And to this day, I'm like, I always, every time when I still talk to her every once in a while, and I'll still tell her like, thank you. Because for the first 3 months, I didn't sell anything.
Wow.
I didn't sell anything for the first 3 months. I only had 1 suit. I only had 1 shirt. I only had 1 tie.
Right.
So every day I look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I never sold anything.
Wow.
But she never fired me, and she always knew or saw something inside of me that I had no idea existed.
Okay.
Right.
So can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Why do you think you didn't sell anything the first 3 months?
I didn't believe in myself. I thought that, again, I was always living this other person's life.
Okay.
It wasn't my life. Because I thought that I was a terrible person. Like I said, I was full of anger. I had a lot of issues internally, and I never showed people the real me.
Okay.
I would just show people whatever I thought is what they wanted to see.
Okay.
And I think that when I realized that it was okay to be myself, that is when I started becoming a better salesperson and actually connecting with people at a deeper level, which is what kind of sales is about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I started working on myself internally, right, through this stage, and then I became a manager of a jewelry store for a different company. They heard about me, and they were like, you're doing really good. So I became a manager when I was like 21 years old. and I felt like I was on top of the world, right? Like where I came from, where I was raised in TJ, it was just full of like drug addicts, people that generations that just stay in one house and they never aspire to move out. There was no pavement there. Like I said, our first bathroom was an outhouse. And
Okay.
here I was responsible for like $1 million store
Mm-hmm.
of like fine diamonds and jewelry and gold and all that stuff that everybody loves.
Okay.
Right. So
Can
it
I
was
ask you a
super
quick
exciting.
question?
Of course.
What was that first sale like?
Uh, my first sale, I couldn't believe it. And then the funny part was that
Like, are you sure?
it was my easiest sale, which I appreciated. So this guy comes in and he read all the information online,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then he shows up and I'm like, "Hi, how you doing?" And he's like, "Hey, do you have this ring?" And I'm like, "Yes, we do. It's over here." He's like, and I had all my spiel, and I was like, "Oh, like let me put it under the light. Let's blah blah blah. It came from here. This person is the designer."
Mm-hmm.
And before I even started, he was like, "I'll take it." And that's it. I was
Wow.
like, "Oh," and it was at that time it was like 2007, 2008, and
Yeah.
it was a $4,000 solitaire that he purchased,
Wow.
right? And I was like, "Oh
Wow. Your
wow,
first
okay."
sale, man.
My
How
first
cool is
sale,
that?
and so I couldn't believe it, right? I was all nervous, ringing him up, like, "Whew."
Yeah.
And then my manager came and she kind of like started talking to him, and then just kind of rang it up, and then like he left, and I started like jumping out of
Yeah.
like just so happy, just so happy.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So then you were on your way, right?
Yeah, so I was
Then
on my way.
the momentum kicked in and you were on your way. So you
Exactly.
so you end up managing a jewelry store. How long did you manage that store?
4 years. So I was there
Okay.
for 4 years. I
Okay.
managed three different stores in that time.
Wow.
And but then something changed inside of me, right?
Okay.
So it being in this industry of jewelry or
Hmm.
retail
Hmm.
is our job was every person that I was talking to, I started asking financial questions. Right?
Sure.
It's like, okay, Mike, like, what's your income? What are your expenses? Oh, I see that you have, I don't know, $300 a month of spare money.
Hmm.
Like, why don't we use those $300 of spare money and buy yourself a $10,000 piece of jewelry,
Right.
right? And then you start using $300 a month, and little by little, like I started noticing that I was sending a lot of people to collections.
Hmm.
Not only was I making dreams true because they were getting engaged and falling in love with a piece of jewelry, but
Hmm.
at the same time, I was getting them into debt,
Yeah.
and sometimes debt that they couldn't handle. And then they would start going into collections, and I started feeling like I really wasn't helping.
Right.
Like I was more in the sales to help myself
Right.
in this industry. And it started to dawn on me that this is not what I want to do.
Gotcha.
And on top of that, like in order for me to move up in the company, I had to invest another 10 years, maybe more, and see if I had a shot of becoming a district manager.
Wow.
Right. So I started to open my ears, my
Mhm.
opportunistic ears, and listen to people.
Okay.
And I had this employee that was working there part time every seasonal. She would come in for Christmas, and she was working for State Farm,
Okay.
and she was working with me part-time at the jewelry for the season because she was saving money to open her own State Farm agency. And
Wow.
she would tell
Okay.
me, it's like, "Hey Sal, like you should come over to State Farm. Like I'm gonna be opening a business. You can open a business, right?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "Sure, sure, 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 sure." A year went by, and then I'm like, "Well, tell me more."
Hmm.
And then she started telling me, and basically I didn't know at the time, but she was gonna open her business sooner than later, and one of the tasks that she was assigned was to find a replacement because
Wow.
she was like the best person, the best salesperson in that agency, right? So then she recruited me. I went to the interview. I got the position. I gave my 2 weeks at the jewelry, and I was let go the same day.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's how you do it in jewelry. You know, it's like there's
Yeah.
so much diamonds here and a lot of things you can do. So they kind of like,
Yeah.
sorry, thank you, bye.
Yeah. For
So I
security
got
reasons more than anything else.
security
Yeah.
reasons exactly, and I basically got 2 weeks of vacation unplanned,
Oh,
right?
good for you.
Yeah, give me enough time to recharge, and and then one of the things though I remember when I was interviewing for State Farm is the agent, one of my mentors, she asked me, she was like, "What do you see yourself in 5 years?" And again, I was full of BS, you know. So
Really?
the thing I said was, I see myself in your position, right? Like me being the business owner. No? And she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, good, good, good." But of course, I was just saying things that I had no idea if they were true or not,
Right.
you know. So when I started working in State Farm, like it was a lot of information. Like I never studied more for licenses in my life,
Yeah.
right? Because there's so many legalities to this game, and when we're giving information to our customers, like it has to be true,
Yeah.
right?
True.
So I became more of a fan of studying, right? So I started studying more, and then in 2 years, maybe about 2 years in, it's when I finally decided and saw myself being a State Farm agent for the rest of my life.
Okay.
So then I talked to the owner of that agency. I'm like, hey, so what do I have to do in order to open an agency?
Mm-hmm.
So she told me, she gave me the long list, right? And that list included that I had to have about $50,000 in my bank account,
Mm-hmm.
no debt, really good credit, and pass all the State Farm tests. And I was like, okay, I have $0 in my savings, living paycheck to paycheck. At that time I had like $12,000 in debt.
Yeah.
My credit it wasn't bad. I was never sent to collections, but I had like the only thing I had financed was a watch.
Yeah.
That, you know. So and I had no idea anything about business.
Right.
I was like, okay, you know. So I started working. I started working more on myself
Okay.
first, like on my beliefs and changing my eyesight to what I wanted to be. So I fell in love and made a commitment to the future me,
Okay.
you know. And I'm like, what do I got to do? I know the list. So I started working at one thing at a time,
Okay.
right? So I got a second job.
Hard.
I got a second job at the jewelry, right? Because they knew me and they hired me on like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working now 2 jobs for about 3 years in order to pay my debt,
Mm-hmm.
save my money, and and basically put myself in a position where I was the best option for the new agent to come
There you go.
from State Farm.
Okay. That's cool, man. So how long does that whole process take? So that's a 3 year. So were you with State Farm for 2 years and then the 3 years kicks in?
Yes and no. So it's a process of however quickly you want it to be.
Okay.
Right. For me, I got the 2 jobs for 3 years, but it took me longer than that because when there's 2 tests that you have to take for State Farm. I passed the first one, and then the second one I failed it. And
Okay.
when you fail that test, they give you 1 year before you can retake it.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay. So I kept
Wow.
churning. I kept saving money. I was making more money now at State Farm, so I didn't need a second job, right?
Right.
Because I had more clientele and building rapport. So I started again just saving money and I stopped going out. I moved back to TJ at a few points throughout my life to save money,
Mm-hmm.
and I started reading a few books about business.
Okay.
I am and interviewing other agents and successful business owners that I knew, just to kind of see what was I missing because I had no idea.
Because success leaves clues, right?
Exactly, right. So
Right.
now I know. Now I know. I was just like, okay, well, what do I need?
Yeah.
And so I started again just working more on myself on what I could do,
Okay.
and I took I went to take the test again.
Mm-hmm.
A year went by, and I was so nervous. I was super nervous. I took it on a Saturday because the office was gonna be there was nobody at the office, and I was just like, okay, I'm like, this is the moment. If I pass, I can move on to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't, I'm like, it's another year.
Right.
It's another year, And I'm
No
like, so
pressure.
no pressure, exactly. So I took the test and I passed.
Good
I
job.
passed, and it told me like immediately the test tells you like you passed, right? And I just started crying.
I can
I
imagine.
just, I was like, ooh, a whole year went by with this objective, and then just even thinking about it right now, I'm like, oof, like it still hits home.
Yeah.
And so I got it, and then the next step was to do a business plan,
Okay.
and I'm like, how do I do that?
Right.
I'm like, okay, now it's gonna get hard, right? Like the
Right.
test is just a
Right.
little test. That so I did the business plan. It was about 8 pages, and then I got a small interview about my business plan, and they were like, okay, like it looks really good. You can move on to the next level. Here's a few pointers. The next level now is you have 2 years to pull the trigger, because we get access to this portal, and then this portal is going to say like, hey, this agency is going to be available because this person is going to be retiring, so you can
Right.
get that franchise, or you can start a brand new franchise in these areas.
Right.
And I didn't want to start a brand new one, because from the interviews that I had done to other agents, they were like, don't do a brand new one because you start with $0 in a
Right.
bank account.
Right.
So, and then I still didn't have the $50,000. So I took 2 years of just kind of not doing anything,
Okay.
right? Just working, saving money, and not applying for any specific locations, just kind of working on my business plan. And because I knew that after 2 years, I can request an extension of
Okay.
1 year if if the reason gets approved, which money was one of the reasons that got approved.
I got you.
All right. So I requested my extension, and before my extension got approved, the perfect location came to fruition. Like this in National City, where my office is now since
Mhm.
2019, it became available. Like the agent is going to retire, and in April you can open an office there.
Beautiful.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not ready. Like I don't have the money, but I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out.
Hmm.
And I jumped into it. I selected it, and I went to interview, and there was a total of 6 candidates, and I knew 2 of the other candidates
Okay.
that were part of my program to become agents. And I I just kind of got in the zone, and my business plan at that time was now like close to 20 pages, and I did my interview, and I was the best option.
Awesome.
So they're like, we're gonna call you in 2 days. And the weekend passed by. I took a trip with my other office, where I was still an employee. We
Hmm.
went to Universal Studios, and then the agent asked me a question in there like, hey, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hmm.
Right, when we were at the we were, I think, on the Simpsons, right?
There you go.
And I was like, I see myself in my agency. And she's like, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get good news. And that's
That's
all she said. On Monday, I got a call. Turns out she knew. She knew when she asked me that I got the job. On Monday, I got the call from leadership in State Farm, and they're like, "Hey, like you're gonna be the new guy."
wow.
And
Congratulations, man.
thank you, thank you.
That's
So,
awesome.
so that's kind of how I got into my agency, and April 2019 is my anniversary. I've been now with State Farm 12 years. 12
Yeah.
years.
Wow.
So
So what'd you do about the money? Because
Oh,
everybody's gonna want to
yes.
know.
So when I was before you open your agency, you go to a 6-month internship,
Okay.
right? And in that internship, you're getting paid. So all I did was I was again working a lot of overtime with
Okay.
State Farm. So
Okay.
I was working like 12-hour days.
Okay.
So with the overtime, I was able to accumulate more
Gotcha.
money. And then since they had already checked my credit and everything, I took $10,000 cash from a credit card,
Okay. Okay.
and I'm like, I'll pay myself later, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Made this work.
um, So,
Good for you, man.
working
That's
10, 12
awesome.
hour days, and then the $10,000 cash loan that I got from my credit card. And then I was able to get the money. Like
That's awesome.
literally maybe like a month before April, I had everything ready to open the doors and pretty much reinvest all the money back into the business.
Right. So you get approved, you do the 6-month internship, you save up the money, you're dialed in, you're ready to go. You open the doors, what happens?
Oof. The first day, so the other agent that was retiring, she spoke to the landlords and were like, hey, we can do like a turnkey, right? Like redo a new lease under the new company, but kind of keep the same office. And I was like, perfect, because people have been walking here for the last 30 years,
Right.
right? But then this agent, she had her office, her baby, for 30 years. So all of a sudden she didn't want to help me. She didn't want to give me access to the office to like clean it up. Like it smelled like dog, because she had a little dog in here. The carpet was stained. The everything was like not nice about the office, right? So the first day, so I couldn't deliver my desks, my computers, or anything like that until April 1st. She was going to give me the key. Right. So I rearranged everything, and
we hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.